Finally, in the early part of, actually the middle of 2002, we flew the 400 M400, which was the 4-passenger vehicle. In this case here, we're flying it remotely, as we always did at the beginning. And we have very small power plants in it at this time. We're now installing larger power plants, which will make it possible for me to get back on board. A vertical takeoff aircraft is not the safest vehicle during the test flight program. There's an old adage that applied for the years between 1950s and 1970s when every aeronautical company was working on vertical takeoff aircraft. A vertical takeoff aircraft needs an artificial stabilization system. That's essential, at least for the hover and the low-speed flight. If that single stability system, that brain that flies that aircraft fails, or if the engine fails, that vehicle crashes. There is no option to that. And the adage that I'm referring to that applied at that time was that there's nothing comes down faster than a VTOL aircraft upside down. It's a macabre comment because we lost a lot of pilots. In fact, the aircraft companies gave up on vertical takeoff aircraft more or less for a number of years. And there's really only one operational aircraft in the world today that's a vertical takeoff aircraft, as distinct from the helicopter, and that's the Hawker Harrier jump jet. A vertical takeoff aircraft, like the Hummingbird, has a very high metabolism, which means it requires a lot of energy. Getting that energy is very, very difficult. It all comes down to that power plant, how to get a large amount of power in a small package. Fortunately, Dr. Felix Wankel invented the rotary engine. A very unique engine. It's round, it's small, it's vibration-free. It fits exactly where we need to fit it, right in the center of the hubs of the ducts in the system. Very critical. In fact, that engine, for those who are into the automobile, know that it recently is applied to the RX-8, the Mazda, and that sports car won Sports Car of the Year. Wonderful engine. In that application, it generates 1 horsepower per pound, which is twice as good as your car engine today, but only half of what we need. My company has spent 35 years and many millions of dollars taking that rotary engine, which was invented in the late 50s, and getting it to the point that we get over 2 horsepower per pound reliably and critical. We actually get 175 horsepower in 1 cubic foot. We have 8 engines in this vehicle. We have 4 computers. We have 2 parachutes. Redundancy is the critical issue here. If you want to stay alive, you've got to have backups. And we have actually flown this vehicle and lost an engine and continued to hover. The computers back up each other. If there's a voting system, if one computer is not agreeing with the other 3, it's kicked out of the system. And then you have 3. You still have the triple redundancy. If one of those fails, you still have a second chance. If you stick around, then good luck. There won't be a third chance. The parachutes are there, hopefully, more for psychological than real reasons, but they will be an ultimate backup if it comes to that. I'd like to show you an animation in this next one, which is one element of the Skycar's use, but it's one that demonstrates how it could be used. You can think of it personally in your own.
Rescue vehicle for San Francisco.
I believe that personal transportation and something like the Skycar, probably in another land or form as well, will be a significant part of our lives, as Dr. Golden says, within the next 10 years. And it's going to change the demographics in a very significant way. If you can live 75 miles from San Francisco and get there in 15 minutes, you're going to sell your $700,000 apartment, buy an upscale home on the side of a mountain, buy a Skycar, which I think would be priced at that time perhaps in the area of $100,000, put money in the bank. That's a very significant incentive for getting out of San Francisco, but you better be the first one out of town as the real estate values go to hell. Developing the Skycar has been a real challenge. Obviously, I'm dependent on a lot of other people believing in what I'm doing, both financially and in technical help. And that has, you run into situations where you have this great acceptance of what you're doing and a lot of rejection of the same kind of thing. I've characterized this emerging technology in an aphorism, as it's described, which really talks about what I've experienced, and I'm sure what other people may have experienced in emerging technologies. There's an interesting poll that came out recently under NAS, I think it's MSNBC, in which they asked the question, are you in the market for a Volanter? 23% said yes as soon as possible, 47% yes as soon as price could come down, 23% said as soon as it's proven safe. Only 7% said that they wouldn't consider buying a Skycar. I'm encouraged by that. At least it makes me feel like, to some extent, it is becoming self-evident that we need an alternative to the automobile, at least for those 50-mile trips and more, so the highways become usable in today's world. Thank you.